I mean, what an absolute shellacking of a series. There are things to take away from all of this, but really how much? You kicked the absolute living hell out of the worst team in baseball. Yeah, that's pretty sick. Never mind.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As always, I'm Brayden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on our main Twitter account, at Locked On Jays. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, even though you guys have been knocking it out of the park, hit that subscribe button. We've noticed like 75% of you guys aren't subscribed. So you might as well. If all you guys subscribe, this could be, that would be really sick. If we can get that number down to like under 50, good on you guys. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something one day if we can get the people that watch this channel all the time to all subscribe. That'd be killer. I don't know. Maybe we'd have to do something. And it's free. You get your podcast, your shorts, your live streams, your videos, the whole ordeal. So yeah, hit that for us. We're getting close to, I think, 3,200 now, which is absolutely insane. Good on all of you guys. A lot to get into in this episode. A lot we want to cover over the next 2 days of this podcast. Obviously, a off day for the Blue Jays today as you guys are listening to this. This team has scored 45 runs in this series. And before I guess I do anything, there will be some of you that are going to hate this, but I have to do it. That's the Blue Jays sweep alert, because the Blue Jays did sweep the Rockies. I mean, this is what me and Dallin Wilton called on the Monday episode. Carter's playing a little bit of devil's advocate because, it's baseball. Things happen. But this team does get away with the sweep. An absolutely unbelievable series just in totality. This team did exactly what they should against a terrible, terrible baseball team. And they have good components. But overall, I mean, they have 30 wins. They're just not good, Carter.
What do you mean? They're an MLB team. They're one of the best in baseball. Look at the Colorado Rockies. They have some history. Dante Bichette. That's a guy that should be known, I guess, in Toronto Blue Jays line just because of his son and what he did at Coors Field over this series. But it was a historic series for the Toronto Blue Jays once again. Setting franchise records. It seems like we've said that a few times this season. This team just continuing to set records and do crazy things offensively. But they win 20-1 in the third game of the series against the Colorado Rockies. Absolutely insane. They score 45 runs in this game. So that is a game average of 15 runs per game. So, that's pretty good. That might go for a long term if you can do something like that every single game. It doesn't really matter who's pitching. I think me or you could pitch on the mound, and we might still have a chance of winning if we're going to get 15 runs of support. So that's a good thing to see from this Toronto Blue Jays offense. But and then 63 hits in a 3-game series as well. So those are both franchise records. That's a pretty good way to go into a tough stretch of baseball coming up, especially going into the Los Angeles Dodgers Stadium in California. Unbelievable stuff. Addison Barger, Daulton Varsho, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting home runs. David Schneider, your boy, hitting home runs. I don't care if it's opposition players. It's still fun to see. Bichette. Unbelievable swings. Another fun series to watch. And it makes me feel a little bit better about that little bit of a stinker stretch they went on against the Orioles and Royals after just beating up on a team. Like you said, you probably should beat up on, but you're like, that is absolute. Like, you are knocking them out like Mike Tyson style. Like, that was unfair baseball. And it was a whole lot of fun to watch being on our side of it.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, if you're a Rockies fan, I just feel bad, and I guess you're just used to it over the past bunch of years. This is just not a good baseball team, and you get to play one of the best teams in all of baseball right now. So that is a tough look. But this team as a whole just did everything they should have. I think you're starting to see great things, and I guess my biggest question, Carter, we always talk about it's not about this game, it's not about this series, it's about now. What things can you take away from this series that you can put into a playoff atmosphere? We're going to talk about season expectations coming up here in this episode, just because it's time to start looking at that. How will this team finish off the season? But Carter, I guess what, or if anything, do you necessarily take specifically away from this series that leads you to say, oh, this would work really well in the playoffs, or this player did this, and that's showing me that they may have success down the line? Or is there anything, and you just think, hey, this is the Colorado Rockies, it's hard to necessarily take anything in particular away?
I think maybe move the Toronto Blue Jays to Coors Field. We'll play Coors Field for the rest of the season. That would probably help the Toronto Blue Jays. But like, there's not too much you can take away from a series. Like, again, it doesn't change the perspective. Like, oh my God, the Blue Jays swept the Rockies. Now they're the best team in the AL for sure. Like, that's it. My perspective hasn't really changed whatsoever. I think the Toronto Blue Jays are a very good baseball team. I think they'll have a chance to win the AL down the stretch. Again, I marked them as a shoe-in to the St. Louis Cardinals series. So as if for the playoffs. So, like, this team is very good, but you can't take away, as much as they absolutely beat up on the Colorado Rockies, and you don't just do that to any baseball team. Like, regular teams don't do that to the Colorado Rockies. You don't see the Yankees rolling in and scoring 45 runs in a 3-game stretch. So that is absolutely insane stuff. But yeah, that doesn't get me too much more excited for like the Toronto Blue Jays to make a deep playoff run, because you're not going to see teams the Colorado Rockies caliber in the playoffs, and you're not going to have that again, even though it is only a little bit of an advantage, and you're still squaring up baseballs, you're still hitting baseballs hard, you're still on time, you're still getting barrel around, you're still making very good swings. You can't take it away from that, but you're not going to be playing Coors Field every single time as well. So I'm not taking a whole lot from the grand perspective away from this, but again, it's nice to see in the big picture you beating up on the bad teams, at least for the schedule. Looking back at this, you're going to say, hey, like, we took advantage of a bad baseball team. That's going to go a long way down the stretch. If you can continue to do that when in the softer parts of the schedule, especially when you have these tougher stretches, just allows for more leeway when you come to these playoff teams.
Yeah, and I guess that's what it is, right? You have to bank these wins and you have to use them because you are going to play tougher teams down the stretch. We'll get into all that and talk about sort of who they're going to play. But yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. It's great to see, and as a fan, it's so much fun to watch. This guy slamming balls out of the park. But in the back of my head, I'm also thinking, this is the Rockies. I had fun. This was great. Now it's a little bit back to reality here, playing better baseball teams. And how does this team line up? I mean, there are things that happen in these ball games that you aren't going to see happen when you play teams that are going to be in a playoffs, or going to be playoff teams. You're not going to see a position player go in and throw to David Schneider. Don't get me wrong. He had 2 home runs. That's awesome. I love to see that, which is going to lead into a conversation we have tomorrow about when some of these guys come back from injury, who gets sent down. Is David Schneider right on the cusp? Possibly. We're going to talk about all that tomorrow. But I mean, like a 4-for-4 day from Ty France. I mean, players getting 7 at-bats in a ball game. Is it just not going to happen? So you have to take real advantage of the at-bats you do have. Again, I want to go over a little bit of how everybody did today, and we'll get into the pitching as well, because I want to save some time in the second and third segment a little bit for the expectations for the rest of the year, because that's where we have to start looking. Davis Schneider, 3 for 7, 4 RBI, 2 home runs. Ernie Clement, 4 for 7, 4 runs scored, an RBI, a home run. Vladdy, 4 hits, 4 for 7, 4 runs scored, 2 RBI, 1 home run. Bichette, 2 for 6, 4 RBI, a home run. Ty France, 4 for 4. Buddy Kennedy goes 0 for 2, which, it's sort of what I expect. 2 for 2 from Addison Barger. 1 for 5 from Nathan Lucas with 4 RBI. Tyler Heineman, 2 for 4. Miles Straw, 2 for 5. This entire offense took advantage of a bad team, and that's not something you can always say. You play bad teams, but it's not every day that everybody in your lineup is contributing to a success of a game. And that's just the Toronto Blue Jays we've seen all year. It hasn't just been 1 or 2 guys. It has been 1 through 9, everybody doing their piece, and that leads you to a win. And sometimes that doesn't just lead you to a win. Sometimes it leads you to 20 runs somehow. So, if there is a team that's going to put up 20 runs, that's a team that needs to be solid 1 through 9, and that's exactly what this team is.
Well, and no disrespect to Buddy Kennedy, but like, you look at this lineup that the Toronto Blue Jays rolled out in the third game, like, that's not the most competitive lineup that this team can roll out. Daulton Varsho is on the bench. Alejandro Kirk's on the bench. George Springer is obviously not in the lineup. As in Barger's not in the lineup. Like, you look at a lot of these guys that are your regulars, the guys that have been doing damage and have been helping this team along the way this entire season. A lot of these guys aren't even in the lineup, and you scored 20 runs. I don't care who it's against. And when you looked at the Colorado Rockies starting pitching, you thought Kyle Freeland was probably the best one. Again, it is Coors Field, and it's the Rockies pitching staff, one of the worst in baseball. But the curveball does play for Kyle Freeland, does get a lot of swing and miss on that curveball, especially against lefties. You saw that against Nathan Lukes, again, predominantly right-handed lineup. That's what was by design for John Schneider. But you saw it again today, up and down the lineup. All of these guys producing, and this entire series, you saw them producing. If you look at a possible series MVP, you could point to David Schneider, you can point to Nathan Lukes, Vladdy, Bichette, Addison Barger, Daulton Varsho having 10 RBIs in the last 2 games. Bichette, another guy, 10 RBIs in the last 2 games. Like, if they put up truly video game numbers and these franchise record numbers, like, this hasn't happened in the entire existence of the Toronto Blue Jays. I know it's against the Colorado Rockies, but you still have to take advantage of the mistake pitches. You still have to put the good swings on the baseballs. So it's just always fun to just beat up on a team that you should beat up on. And I think a lot of the guys he shot in the dugout, especially from a lot of the expressions on the faces, warranted from what they did to the Colorado Rockies. But you can tell they were having a good time out there.
Yeah, I mean, even the pitching staff, like Kevin Gausman, I think had you worried a little bit at the start of just, hey, is he going to have a little bit of a rough go here, or is he going to bounce back and continue to be the Kevin Gausman I think we saw over the last little while? But he goes 7 innings, only gives up 3 hits and 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. I mean, this guy's now got his ERA down to 3.85. You remember he was up in the 4 range for a while, so this guy's been slowly dropping that ERA. Brayden Fisher comes out again, goes an inning, strikes out 2, and then Tommy Nance comes in to clean things up, getting a strikeout as well. So again, it's not just one guy. Even you look at this entire pitching staff, and it is everybody doing their piece, doing their part. And even when they don't have their best day with one of these pitchers, they're getting the job done. And that's something you need from them to eat innings, to do the work against bad baseball teams, so that you're not really having to tax that bullpen, even though there is obviously the off day. But it always helps. The least you have to use these guys and put them under pressure situations, the better, because those games will come eventually.
Yeah, not a lot of high pressure situations for the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. Like, they're throwing, a nice thing to see is they're throwing Brayden Fisher in low leverage situations. And Brayden Fisher is a guy that I have a lot of confidence in coming out of this bullpen. So that just goes to show how good this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen is. And the 8th guy right now is Tommy Nance. And Tommy Nance is having quite the season right now with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's only given up 3 hits in his 10 2/3 innings of work, a .84 ERA, 10 strikeouts, a .47 whip. Ever since he started throwing his slider more and using the curveball more as that strikeout pitch, the curveball is nasty. But when he was throwing that pitch a lot more, I was having trouble being in the strike zone. The walk rate was up. People were able to sit on that fastball a little more. The fastball is good as a complementary pitch, but he wants to be able to work in advantage counts. Gets in those advantage counts with the slider, is able to throw more strikes with that pitch, and that's how you've seen him be a lot more effective. So if that's the guy, again, you're relying on as your 8th guy, with some guys that are injured right now, that just goes to show that Toronto Blue Jays bullpen is in a very good spot. And yeah, just shout out to the starting pitchers, obviously, in this series as well, for giving them that length, for allowing them to only have to throw a couple of relievers at the time. Because again, you're probably going to have a lot more high leverage situations and stressful situations with the stretch that you do have coming up.
Yeah, exactly. It was just an overall great series, and hopefully you guys had some fun. Hopefully you placed some bets on this series. I won a ton of money over this stretch, just betting on the Blue Jays, and it could not have gone any better for me personally. If it's fantasy-wise, if it's betting-wise, if it's watching my team succeed, just a great series to watch as a Blue Jays fan. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk the expectations for the rest of this season. It is the big question now. It is the one thing, I think there's 2 big questions, which we're going to cover in today's episode and tomorrow's episode. So 2 big ones for you guys, and we got to talk about it now. The expectations of how this team can finish this season out, their schedule, who they're playing against, what we think this team can finish with. We'll come back with all that right after this short break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock into your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before Week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got an eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get into the game. I love fantasy football. We always talk about it around that time. NFL football is so fun to watch here in Canada. We actually talked about that in our fantasy football group chat the other day. is one of you guys are from the States, and they asked, hey, how big is NFL football in Canada? It is absolutely massive. Using Prize Picks, I love going for anytime touchdowns. I always go for more than, especially on my Carolina Panthers, especially when I'm hoping for a comeback season for them. So I will definitely be hammering some picks on more than Tedemir or McMillan. Excited to see him have a big season. Bryce Young, obviously, as well. So I will be hammering the picks on Prize Picks, and hopefully you guys will as well. So you can download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Today's episode also brought to you by Farm to Fork. If you're a fan of premium, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, I've got some exciting news. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything comes flash frozen and individually packaged for your convenience. All Farm to Fork meats are raised on Canadian farms, so when you order, you're supporting local producers. It's time to buy Canadian. It's so important right now with the state of everything going on. And you know what? There's no better place to buy. I'm telling you guys, I tell this story all the time. Ross Levitan has us down. And I love this story because we got to watch a bunch of hockey. We got to watch a little bit of football. He has us down for some steaks. And I had to ask him, I'm like, where'd you get these steaks? These are unbelievable. He goes, Farm to Fork, dude. They're one of our sponsors. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Put us in contact. And sure enough, I love Farm to Fork so much, we had to get them as a sponsor for ours as well. They're delivering all across Ontario, Western Quebec, and the best part, delivery is free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even have to leave the house to get this quality. I've got a special code just for you. Use code LOCKEDON40 to get $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. Visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. And again, that's LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to Fork, delicious locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door. So, Carter, as we continue on, obviously, we got to set the expectations for this team. You know, they had a great start to this season with 116 games played. We know what this team is capable of. Now, as we move into the home stretch, you could pretty much call it, because there are only a few series left. I do want to get into it before we really dive into what is our expectation, not only for this team, how they finish, will they finish in a playoff spot, what will the win totals be? So make sure you guys are following along through segment 2 and segment 3 of this one, because this is where it all matters, right? The home stretch, how you finish, how you go into the playoffs, what kind of brand of baseball are you playing at that time? It's going to be so important for this team. So I want to run down the schedule just before we continue to let the people know sort of what the Blue Jays have left. They got the Dodgers, then the Cubs, the Rangers, the Pirates, the Marlins, the Twins, the Brewers, the Reds, the Yankees, the Astros, the Orioles, the Rays for 4, the Royals, the Red Sox, and then they finish up the season against the Rays again. So a lot of AL East teams here to finish the season, as it usually does happen like that. You play the most games against them, you're probably going to play them at the end of the season. Sure enough. The good thing is you got a lot of games against the Rays. You got a lot of games against the Orioles. No matter what their record is, they always play the Blue Jays hard. So, Carter, I guess out of all of these games, I believe it's 46 games remaining now. I guess, where is your head at here? Like, are you hoping that this team goes absolutely nuts? Are you just hoping they can hang on to where they're at? Like, what's best case, worst case? And honestly, where do you think they finish with their amount of wins and losses here?
Well, obviously, I want this team to go 46-0. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. But I just want this team to keep their head above water, continue to do what they've been doing this entire season. Have those gritty at-bats, continue to foul off tough pitches, not roll over, hustle a first base, just do the little things right, the things that have gotten them in the first place into the AL East. If they continue to do that, I don't see why this team can't finish atop of that AL, or at least the AL East, sorry. In terms of the AL, it's going to be a little bit tougher, obviously. You got to play very good baseball down the stretch. I think there is a chance to do that. But as in terms of my expectation, actually, are we doing, do you want me to throw a record on it, like how many wins I think the Toronto Blue Jays will get? Because I do have something written down here. I have the Toronto Blue Jays getting 94 wins. So for the rest of this here, okay, apparently Brayden had close to 94 wins as well, just based off your reaction. But they have to go 26-20 the rest of the season to reach that 94 win tally. I do think that is enough to win the AL East. At this point in the year, I do have the Toronto Blue Jays winning the AL East. I do have them actually getting the bye as well. I'll go as far as that saying that. I think they're going to be second in the AL when it comes to the end of the season. I do think they'll finally pass that wild card round, get to the ALDS. I'm not going to say how well I do think they do in the playoffs, but I do think they will play good enough baseball down the stretch, especially with some of their players coming back and this team hopefully getting more and more upside as we continue down the stretch. But I think they will be able to do enough to win the AL East, with 94 wins.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, I'm holding up my notes page. That I don't know if it'll focus, but I had them going 26-20 in their last 46, which puts their total at 94 wins. Exactly that. I went through these series. I thought, okay, where do they end up here? So me and Carter are on the same wavelength, and I agree with you. I think that is enough to not only win the AL East. I think that puts you in a spot to possibly win the AL. I don't know if you win it with that number, but maybe a second place in the AL total. So I think this team has a lot of room to succeed, but they have to, like you said, and I think what you said is perfect, is keep your head above water here. Do the fundamentals. Do everything properly that you're supposed to, because, you can see at this time of year with a lot of baseball teams where guys get in the box and they start to feel the nerves. The lights get a little too bright. And we talk about the playoffs that happening. Well, it's not just that. This team knows the direction it can go into and know where they can finish at the end of this season. Do the lights get too bright for these guys? I mean, that's I think a fair conversation that needs to be had, because I think me and you, I don't think that is I think that's a very middle of the road answer when it comes to both of us thinking 26 wins here. I don't think that's blowing anybody out of the water. I think that is exactly what you said, keeping your head above water. It's not failing. It's not over succeeding. It's doing the job. And I think that's something that's been great with this team, is they've just been doing the job the entire season. So I think that continues. I don't think they blow anybody out of the water. I don't think that this team is going to go on a 30 and whatever run here. I guess what would that be, 30-16? I think that's crazy. If they do that, I mean, they win the AL just in general. I think if you can get those extra 4 wins, I think there's no.
You don't think they got another 11 game win streak in the tank?
Maybe
another one out there late on the season.
I don't really want to put anything out of my head. This team has over-succeeded since day one of my expectations. So I don't want to say that they absolutely won't do that or that absolutely won't happen. I just think as fans, I don't want in my head to be, oh, this team needs 30 wins to prove to me that they can be successful in the playoffs. No, I think if this team can continue doing and playing fundamental baseball and exactly the kind of baseball that, you grow up watching and wanting teams to play, it's doing every little thing properly. It is playing good defense. It is, making smart decisions on the base path. I think that is, with this team doing that and what they've done all season, I think that's gained them a lot of wins here. It's just for the basics that a lot of other teams aren't doing right now. They aren't focused on those little things. And maybe that's where the Toronto Blue Jays have succeeded and over-succeeded, is playing the right way. I guess that's the best way to put it. So I think 26-20 is a conservative answer. I don't think, we're going to break any headlines with the Blue Jays going 26-20, but I think it's just a fair number overall.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the way you look at the schedule. That can depend on how that you would view that 26-20 prediction that we do have here. Because you could look at it one way and say, oh, yeah, you play the Orioles a bunch, play the Rays a bunch. Their records aren't very good. You got like the Pittsburgh Pirates on here, the Marlins, the Twins, who just sold their entire roster. You got a few bad teams on here. You got the Royals once again, but the Royals just gave you a little bit of a hard time. So you could look at it one way where there's a lot of teams on here with some bad records, but then you could say, hey, there's a lot of AL East opponents on here. Then you do have the Brewers. You have a stretch right now where you play the Dodgers, the Cubs, and then the Rangers. So it depends on how you play it. But if you play, again, like the Toronto Blue Jays have been, you take advantage of those bad teams. Maybe you sweep the Pirates. Maybe you have a very good series in there against the Miami Marlins. You win a series against the Twins. You take advantage of the bad teams. You kind of roll over them. And then when you play the good teams, and you have this 9-game stretch here, if you go 4-5, it's not going to hurt you that much. If you kind of just stay around that 500 mark, you're going to be okay, because you put yourself at a very good spot. You swept the Rockies. You're at this point where you're 20 games above 500 now. So you have the ability, if you have just a little bit of a rough stretch, you don't want to lose, you want to go on a 7-game losing streak. I'm not saying that, but you do have this ability now to kind of, battle against these good teams and lose a game here and there, because it's baseball. You're not going to win every single game, and it's going to be hard, obviously, when you're going on a stretch or you're playing playoff caliber teams. It's hard to win a lot of baseball games down the stretch. They mean a lot more. So teams are going fully at it, throwing everything they have out the wall to win these games later on in this stretch. So every game means a lot. So it's nice to take advantage again of the Rockies, the Pirates, the Marlins down the stretch. And hopefully they can take advantage to play good baseball against the good teams coming up here like they have been all season. So I guess that's the theme of what we're talking about right now, is just continue doing on what you're doing. Keep the train on the tracks and keep playing the caliber of baseball we all know the Toronto Blue Jays can play.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to ask you this, because with this team obviously has gone through a lot of injuries, which we will talk about more tomorrow. But I guess, is there any thought in giving guys extra rest days down the stretch, like the guys are going to be staples in this lineup? Do you consider that at all right now, and just trying to avoid some overuse injuries? And I'm not even talking about the bullpen. I'm more so talking about position players, right? Do you give Vlad an extra off day here and there? Or do you give George Springer an extra off day, or whoever it may be, Alejandro Kirk? Do you get him off his feet for an extra day, once in a blue moon? Do you think that's at all going through their head, or do you think that this team is right on now on the tracks and they just want to keep it rolling right through the end of the season?
Well, I don't think you deviate away from the plans that you made before the season started. I don't think you add any additional rest because you don't have anything locked up yet. I think it's a little bit too early to be adding that additional rest because you haven't locked up the AL East. You haven't made the playoffs. Nothing is set in stone yet. So you don't want to count your chickens, before they've hatched here and jump the gun and start, sitting Vladdy for what? You haven't made anything. You start sitting all these guys and then maybe all of a sudden this horrible stretch comes along and then you sat these guys for no reason. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is still a possibility. So you don't want to prepare for something that is still kind of in the unknown. So I don't think you sit anyone yet. Like maybe the guys that are coming back from injury, you obviously have a little bit more caution. If there is an injury risk for sure, like that, you have to play the long game with because you need some of these guys. Your Alejandro Kirks or George Springers, again, especially with their pitchers. When Nick Sal and Jimmy Garcia, if some of these guys come back, you definitely have to play and side on the air of caution because you don't want to rush these guys back and then just have them injured again. That's not going to help anybody. But in terms of the guys that have been fine and there's no really injury or health concerns there whatsoever, I think it's way too early to start resting players before you have anything locked up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's a take I saw on Twitter and people asking or talking about that. And of course, I love looking through Twitter because I like to see what other fans are thinking about this team and where they're going. Obviously, leave us your comments and thoughts down below on sort of how you think this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to do with the last 46 games remaining. We want your guys' opinions because we'll talk about it. It's going to be one of the biggest topics of conversation throughout the stretch is how they finish. Do the lights get too bright? We want to know your thoughts because this team has not had playoff success in the past years. And this is a very different team, obviously. I mean, you can just tell it by the swagger they have on the field that this is a different ball team than the ones we've seen in the past. But Carter, let's take a break. I want to come back with something that's maybe a little bit leads us into tomorrow's episode, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. So let's come back. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with all that right after this. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. You guys know how much I love Game Time. I talk about it all the time because it's my favorite place to get tickets. It's actually the only place I get my tickets because I don't like to mess around on any of those other sites that either charge you way too much at the back end or, aren't reliable. And Game Time, I know it's an easy and a successful, payment every single time. If you ever decide at last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab a last minute ticket without the stress. That's a huge part of it is I know there's going to be tickets available. And if I do that, I will still have options. It's not there's one ticket for this price for the entire thing. No, there's different prices. Sometimes there's deals and you know upfront what you're going to pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, just continuing on here, obviously one of the biggest questions is how the rest of the wild card and AL East in total are going to finish up here. And I know it's something you sort of brought up, and I've gotten talking to a little bit just with coworkers and other things. I got one of my coworkers is an Astros fan, the others is a Red Sox fan, there's a Yankees fan. And everybody's having the conversation of how will this American League shape up for the playoffs? And I think as a Blue Jays fan, I'm a little bit taken aback right now because I'm not worrying about a wild card. My head immediately is this team is going to get a bye if they continue to do the right things. So I guess taking a look at the rest of the AL, Carter, and how this is going to shape up, I guess who do you have where? Who do you have finishing in the wild card? And do you think there's going to be a big shakeup here at all?
Well, I mean, the big shakeup would be the Yankees not making the playoffs and, absolutely continuing to fall off the cliff. I don't think that happens. I do think they are going to figure it out. I give them a little bit of credit. As much as I would love to hate on the Yankees here, I do think they are going to bounce back and make the playoffs. I don't think they are your AL East winner. I think they, did a little bit too much damage to their own team. And I think there is a juggernaut in that division that they don't want to mess with. So I have another team winning that division, but I do have the Yankees still making the playoffs. I don't know how the Red Sox are doing it, but they continue to just look better and better. They locked up Roman Anthony as well. Something I'd love to see the Toronto Blue Jays do. I talked about this in another episode, is taking, some more risks on some of their younger guys, maybe an Ashton Barger type guy that does show a lot of raw characteristics and is, if again, played that full season, would be on pace for 30 to 35 home runs, maybe get in early on that. But I have the Red Sox make the playoffs as well. And then that kind of leaves the Mariners and the Rangers. Like when you look in the AL, there's just one team that's not going to make it, that bought at the deadline at least. Unless somehow the Guardians go on this miracle run and make the playoffs. It's the Mariners or the Rangers that aren't going to make it, assuming that, it's still the Astros and the Tigers at top of their respective divisions. I think somehow with even all the additions, I love what they did at the deadline, but somehow the Mariners are going to find a way to mess this up. I think the Rangers are going to weigh the squeeze in there, just their starting pitching. I think the offense is going to be head scratching at times. It's going to make you want to pull your hair out. It's going to be just enough to get them into the playoffs. So I have the Mariners just missing here. Toronto Blue Jays obviously winning the AL East. Credit to them calling it early. Hopefully that actually does come true. But I think it's going to be tight down the stretch. I think there's going to be a lot of teams battling, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. Even for that last playoff spot, I think all those teams kind of meshed in there. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mariners, the Rangers, all those four teams, hopefully not the Toronto Blue Jays as well, but all those teams are going to be battling into the last week of the MLB season.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you, except I think I have Boston taking the first wild card. I have the Yankees taking the second, and then I actually do have the Mariners holding on. Even though I agree with you, I think this is going to be one of those years that, I remember when me and you were working at the gas station together and we were watching the Toronto Blue Jays just miss the playoffs, right? It's going to be something like that for a fan base here. And I feel like it is going to be Texas here because I don't know. I just think the additions that Seattle made, I think maybe will be the point that gets them over the hump and into the playoffs. I think they will just hang on with that third wild card spot. But I think, man, it doesn't matter how you chalk this up. Whoever the Blue Jays may end up playing here, wow, it is going to be a hard series. Even if they do, sadly enough, be in the wild card, I think either way you shake this, it is not going to be an easy series for this team. There are a lot of not amazing teams in the AL, but a lot of good teams in the AL and a lot of teams that can scrape out a series win, I think. So, I'm very interested to see how this all plays out, but I do have the Tigers obviously holding on and the Astros holding on to their spots as well, respectively. So I don't know. I guess it's a wait and see type of ball game here, but let us know what you guys think down on the comments, Carter. A lot more we want to get into on tomorrow's episode because it is going to be, it's a wild episode. We got to talk about who plays where, when players come back in the lineup, who gets sent down, the whole ordeal. And I think there's a lot of controversy over it and opinions because a lot of people will see some of their favorite players and some of the guys they've loved watching this season no longer be a part of this team. And as sad as that is to say, that's the tough part about being a great baseball team is some of your favorite players maybe don't end up on this roster. But that's a part of it. Carter, my man, anything else before we kick out of here for the day?
No, we just want to see the Blue Jays continuing on to win. This is a team that is a juggernaut when they play at home, the best record in baseball when they're at home. How do you continue to have more home playoff games than away playoff games? You have the best record in baseball. You have the best record in the American League. And you set yourself up with one of the best fan bases in all baseball. Pack the Rogers Center, get all the fans in there. We've seen how loud it can be. It should be even louder than possibly it was before a lot of the expectation around this team. So hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays can set themselves up for success like John Schneider does when he does this platoon option with the lineup, and they can have some success here finally in the playoffs. And the last question I just do have for you, just kind of with the storyline of the series against the Colorado Rockies, how sad are you to see the Toronto Blue Jays leave Coors Field, the launch pad that is, and just the Colorado Rockies pitching staff? We saw what happens when the Toronto Blue Jays take advantage of mistake pitches because, oh my goodness, they had a lot of opportunities to take advantage of mistake pitches. A lot of middle pitches that we saw throughout this series. I hope we continue to see those middle pitches, but I don't think we can be accustomed to that, especially with this kind of stretch that they do have and the pitching that we're going to see, especially going to LA.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, this was a fun series to watch. And honestly, I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is look at the damage this team can do when they are ready for those pitches and when they are feeling confident in swinging at those pitches. I think that's something that's boggled me a little bit sometimes throughout the season is letting those mistake pitches go by you instead of just taking a hack and doing the job. This team, I think, knew that the Rockies weren't a good team and that the ball was going to fly. So they were just swinging away. And I don't mean that in like they weren't taking pitches or whatever, but when they saw a mistake pitch, they were going after it. They were being ready for that. And I think that's something they can carry on throughout the season is if, hey, you see a pitch coming middle, take a hack because you know you can do damage. So I guess that's where I'll leave it for today, Carter.
So yeah, I think maybe the game plan was just sit in the box, wait for them to throw middle, just swing, just swing with some intent. And that's definitely what the Toronto Blue Jays did. It makes it look pretty easy when you're just able to attack pitches pretty consistently that are in the middle of the strike zone, which credit to the Toronto Blue Jays. Like I said, you still have to be able to hit those pitches in the middle of the strike zone. Some of them being at 99, some of them being at 95. If you're lucky, maybe they'll be at 90 or 91. But the Toronto Blue Jays showing how good they can be offensively. And showing that, yeah, they can hit the home run ball as well because your boy Dave Schneider really starting to figure it out. And I know you're definitely excited to see it, along with another guy that's maybe even a little bit more important to the Toronto Blue Jays' success, probably a lot more important. That's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with what he has been doing post All-Star break. Just wanted to say thank you guys for watching, the likes, comments, all the support recently has been much appreciated, whether it's on the live streams, the podcast, the shorts, the reels, anything that we have been posting. Like Brayden said at the start of the episode, we have noticed that I believe it is 75% of you guys, especially with all the new people coming in that are not subscribed. So if you are coming back, tuning into the episodes, it would help us out a ton. We'd appreciate it a bunch. And we will talk to you guys again tomorrow with a few debates that we've been, again, just trying to talk about for a while, but with so much going on, trying to Blue Jays line with the trade deadline, we push it to this episode. So we're excited for it. We hope you guys are as well. And we'll talk to you guys then.